Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Eats. Obviously, you guys all know me. So tonight we're going to be talking about gut health. And it's not usually the big sexy topic that everybody's like, ooh, I want to learn more about that. Unless someone has an issue with it, and then they really want to know a lot about it. And so your gut is so important. And we talk about your gut. It's a huge part of your immune system. We'll get into that. How this all plays a factor in your overall health. And because it's not something that we talk about a lot or we think about a lot. We think about your heart, we think about your lungs, we think about a lot of different things, but we don't think as much about our digestive system, our gut, and how that plays a role in our health and what we do. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Because it starts in the gut. When we talk about health, it's the first four letters. It's how you heal, right? So how is your body healing? Because we always have damage happening, things pulling us away from health on a daily basis. How do we get back to that? So we're going to get into all that here. So obviously, first, our mission, help you discover and restore health, hope, and wholeness so that you can live the life that you were meant to live. And so this is reach your optimal potential. So that's why we're here. And that's why we want you to go through all this, because exactly we want you to be able to reach where you're meant to be and be the best version of yourself. I mean, that's why you guys are investing your time, your energy, your money into doing this, because you want to be the best version of yourself. Yes, everyone wants to feel good, but to feel good, you got to be able to functioning good. To function good, we got to have the proper structure and organs working like they need to, right? So we get into this here. So all diseases begin in the gut. This is from Hippocrates. So you can see when we talk about that, we're not talking just about a couple things. We're talking about a lot of things. So we look at everything from autoimmune, cognitive decline, right? A lot of people don't think about your gut when we talk about that and how that affects those things. We'll even go into, we'll see a lot of times, especially in kids, we'll see kids diagnosed on the spectrum or ADHD or something like that, right? One of the first places we look, the gut. The gut and their diet and how that's working. Fatigue, joint pain. Anyone know anyone with that here? I mean, that's like most of the patients I have coming in the office, one of those things, right? Obviously cancer, or obviously we know your gut is a part, not just colon cancer or something like that, but how your immune system, a huge part of your immune system, like I said, is in your gut, and we'll get into that. Mood disorders, learning disabilities, infertility, right? That's not what a lot of people think about when they think about infertility. They don't think about their gut and how that's functioning. Allergies, asthma, again, this is so much of your immune system. So this is why we're talking about your gut and what's going on and how that's functioning, how it's healing, and most importantly, what do you need to do to get it back moving in the right direction. So we're going to start with the major premise. First of all, your body was meant to heal, right? God does not make junk. You're not faulty. You're not broken. Does everyone understand that? But that's pretty much what we're told when we go to your doctor. This is wrong with you. You're broken. You need this. That's not at all what we tell you when you come into our office. You may have some dysfunction going on, but your body knows what to do. We just need to get to the cause of why that's dysfunction is so that your body can heal the way it was meant to heal. Does that make sense? There's a difference in there. I want to talk about that here in a little bit. So we're going to give you the right tools to allow your body to work, to allow it to work like it's meant to and heal like it's meant to. So first of all, what controls everything? Wow, you guys are... Woo. I even gave you the answer. Like, all right, we got to get some energy going here. Do we need to all do some burpees first? Did them already. Did them already. Well, there's no such thing as too many. There's no such thing as doing too many burpees. We can always do more. So I expect a little audience participation. How's that go? Yeah. So we'll do that, and we'll get a little more energy in here. Otherwise, we can just do burpees, right? That solve burpees solve all problems. You didn't know that? You're tired? Do some burpees. You have too much energy. Do some burpees. Participation, right? Yeah. But there'll be some perspiration also if you start doing burpees, right? Yeah. So like I said, they solve a lot of problems. You're angry? Do some burpees. Right? Yeah. So you're depressed? Do some burpees. It'll get you going, right? All that. So your nervous system is what controls every single cell, every single organ in your body is your nervous system, right? We know that's the master controller, your hard drive. Everything's right up here, right? Your brain, down your spinal cord, out your nerves to every cell, muscle, organ, right? We know that is the key to everything. So we want to make sure that that is working, first of all, right? So that's where we start with. But there's kind of two different big schools of thought of what we've been talking about. There's two different models. There's allopathy, right? Some people would say allopathy. It's kind of weird, but it's allopathy versus vitalism. And we're going to kind of break down the difference between the two of these and how we look at things and how we go about things. Now, allopathy is your pieces and parts, essentially. And that's like we go in our medical model that we have out with, we have specialists for everything, right? You have your cardiologist, you have your pulmonologist, you have your, every organ has its own specialist, right? And that's great that someone gets very knowledgeable about what's about that organ, but a lot of times it gets forgotten that we're more than just one organ in a separate little entity. Does that make sense? They're all pieces and parts of one greater being, right? And they just we're going to manage this organ, and I've done my job with this organ, and this doctor says this, and this doctor looks at this, and this doctor looks at this, and they prescribe according to that. Well, this is why so many pharmacists save so many lives in the fact of, like, you cannot take this medication and this medication together at the same time, right? That's their job, is to help save lives during that. But that's a big problem because that happens, and the doctors aren't talking to each other and how this affects this or what. But they're also not looking at how one organ dysfunction might affect another organ and how the body is functioning, causing the symptom that you came in with, right? Because that's what they're looking at, is the symptom instead of looking at the cause. Now, vitalism, your body, again, was meant to heal. It will heal. It's always doing the right thing at the right time. Instead of you're broken, your body's not doing what it's supposed to do. Your body's doing the right thing at the right time. It just needs something not in the way. Does that make sense? There's a big difference in there in how we look at things. And so, like, again, in allopathy, it's a treatment through pharmaceutical and surgical intervention, right? We're going to change the chemistry of your body so that it has this favorable outcome that we want. So we're going to put these different types of medications in there that, and pharmaceuticals, so let's through this. So these things are not necessarily healthy for us, but they're to get the desired outcome. Because if someone who this isn't prescribed for takes this, it could kill them, right? That's why it's prescribed. So we look at that. The other thing is surgery, right? Well, we're going to cut something out. We're going to put some screws or something in, whatever, because the body isn't working. Now, there's a time and a place for everything, and I'm not saying that there's not, but there's a big difference between that versus establishing the right frame of how the body is supposed to work, or giving it the things that it's been missing that you haven't been giving it enough of, and now it's not working like it needs to, right? If I went to the gas station today, I went to a different gas station than I normally do, and they had the red handle and the green handle. Anyone know what the green handle is? Diesel, right? Now, if I put that in my truck, you laugh because you know there'd be a big problem, right? My truck, I might be able to get home, but there's going to be a big problem when I go to try and start my truck in the morning. If that gas and that diesel is mixed together, my truck is not made for that, and it's going to be a big problem and a really big bill. But if I wasn't paying attention and I said, oh, it's cheaper to get this, so I put this green handle in instead, I could have been a big problem, right? Again, it might be cheaper to go through McDonald's and put that in my body, but there's going to be a bigger cost in the long run. Does that make sense? And so we look at that, how that all works. So right now, here's the problem: is we're generational sickness here. There's over 133 million Americans suffer from a chronic condition. So that's not just a one-off or something like this. This means this is chronic, lifetime problem. This is not just a simple little thing. This is a big deal. And 133 million people, that's a lot of people. That's a huge amount of our population are chronically sick, and that means they'll be taking this medication for the rest of their life. That's the prescription. That's how it's handled in the allopathic model. Now, first of all, doing any type of drug for the rest of your life, that's never been tested on anybody. And how are you going to handle that? And guess what happens when your body's going to accommodate to those things, right? Just like anything else. I have a wedding ring. And if I move my wedding ring, you'll see, well, it's number one, it's a tan line here, right? Because I've been out in the sun. But if you feel there's a little divot, it's a little dented in right here. Now this is a silicone one and it can stretch. It hasn't restricted my finger, but my fingers changed and adapted to that. Now I've adapted so much to wearing my wedding ring that if I didn't have it on, I would feel weird, right? You guys, you know what I'm talking about? Or maybe your watch or some other thing, right? Like we're so used to that over time, our body has adapted to that situation. The same kind of thing. This is we're going into this. So now as we talked about your GI tract, your gut, well, it's more than just your small and large intestine, right? We're talking all the way from mouth to anus. It's a lot through there. There's a lot of other organs that are a part of this too. And a lot of you think of that mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, anus, right? But also your liver, pancreas, and gallbladder are in there too. They have jobs to do. And so we look at those. Those help produce enzymes to help break down that food. And we're going to talk about what are the different jobs of the body so that we can get the best at what our gut is supposed to be doing. So it's all part of your microbiome. So it houses all this. You've heard of your microbiome before, right? You guys. So your microbiome is bacteria, it's viruses, it's fungus. Now, a lot of times we think about this, we hear about these things, we think this is bad stuff, right? Well, guess what? You have good bacteria, you have good viruses, you have good fungus that are supposed to be in your body. We need these things to survive, right? This is also why on your skin, why everybody should wash their hands, right? We all know that, especially if you go to the bathroom, wash your hands, things like that. Especially before you touch my food, please wash your hands, right? In between, something like that, right? But should we be using antibacterial soap? Should we be using that? No, because now that's taken all the bacteria off our hands, which we have good bacteria on there also. So now our normal flora, things that are protecting us, that are keeping us healthy, that this protective layer is now wiped away. So now our immune system is already a step behind and struggling that much more because our skin's our largest organ. And it's very important in there. So that we're losing that protection there already. Same thing with our gut. If we don't have the right amount or the right things in there, it can't do its job. Does that make sense? So we got to make sure we have the right amount, the right things. So we're going to kind of break that down a little bit here too. But this is all your microbiome. So we want a healthy microbiome. Long time ago, most of you guys are too young. A couple of you are old enough, but you probably didn't want it. But there used to be the biodome. You guys remember they actually did a NASA experiment in the biodome, kind of stuff like that. So people living in this biodome, they're supposed to live in there for like years and see if they could survive in this thing. Didn't quite work out like they thought it would. They still need some outside intervention to help with this. So we need those things for our body. It just can't just on its own. We need these things, but we need the right things. Does that make sense? So there's three keys to this. So we want digestion, absorption, and elimination. So our body has to be able to take in this, has to break it down, break the things down into usable pieces, but then we have to be able to take up those usable pieces and get it to the right places. And then we have to get rid of the waste, right? Just like you got to we got to take out the garbage every night, right? Because you don't want to walk in here and, ooh, what's that smell? It's the garbage. No one's taking it out for 2 weeks, right? We don't want that. I just was gone on this weekend. We did everything, and I thought we took the garbage out before we left on Thursday afternoon. We didn't, because when I came in on Sunday night, smells in here. It wasn't really bad, but it was enough that I got to take the garbage out, right? I could tell right away because no one took the garbage out before we left. We want to get the garbage out, right? So that's got to be working properly too. But you'd be surprised how many patients tell me when they first come in here that they aren't going regularly, right? Oh yeah, I go once every 2 or 3 days. Well, our body you should be like a baby. They eat, they go. You should be the same. If you're not getting rid of some waste on a regular basis, that's building up in there. That causes other problems, right? Going too frequently, diarrhea. That's not fun, right? That's a problem also. That means you're not getting rid of that waste appropriately that way also. So this is all part of that elimination. So we're always getting signals. We're always getting those things. It makes it the phone. You think of that. Remember that old ads? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Well, if we can't hear what our body is telling us, there's a problem, right? And we can't respond appropriately. Yeah, if you have your headphones in, the music fully blasted, and you're just doing your thing, but I'm trying to get your attention, but you're not looking my way, and I'm yelling and screaming, you can't hear me because you got the headphones in and you're just going your thing. Well, there's a car coming, watch out, watch out, watch out! Right? So, like, same kind of thing. If our body cannot hear those signals, cannot hear it talking to itself, there's going to be issues in there. So we got to make sure there's no interference again, from the brain to the body. And the gut is a huge part of it. We have so many neural connections in our gut that's connecting to our brain, telling it feedback back and forth the whole time on how to produce things. And so we're going to go through a lot of that right here. So some of those signals. First of all, bloating, abdominal pain, constipation, nausea, diarrhea. These are all things we all recognize that we've had at least some of that happen throughout our life. We should, because these are warning signs. This is your body telling you something. Hey, something's not right, right? Because are any of these things normal to have on a daily basis? No. No, these are normal to have when your body's trying to give you a signal saying, hey, something's not right. We've all eaten something we shouldn't have and felt the remorse after doing that, right? You had too much ice cream, or you had something too spicy, or you had some bad food that had gone bad, right? And your body goes, whoa, what is that? Get it out of me, right? We've all had that unfortunate experience. But that's your body doing the right thing. Thank God it does that. I remember it's been over 20 years since I went to a McDonald's and actually ate anything or did anything. But I happened to, some people are with, they needed something. We were between a wedding, between the reception and all that, and they were hungry and they needed something. So we were there. So I got a burger or something. I don't remember what it is. I didn't even get halfway through the burger and my body said, what was this? I had to go to the restroom. They're like, this is not what we have, because I don't eat like that. I didn't eat like that. And like, I haven't since, because I'm like, I don't want that, right? But we've all had those type things where we've had something we shouldn't have, and our body said, wait a minute, that's not right. So that's good. It's what your body's supposed to do, but we don't want to have these things on a regular basis. And you'd be surprised how many patients, I guarantee you, one of those things is listed on almost everybody's intake form. And sometimes a lot of those. So it tells us our gut is not healthy to start with. So leaky gut, so a big one here. Everyone ever heard of leaky gut before? Right? So what does that mean, leaky gut? It sounds kind of a weird term, right? So if you don't have a good state, if our intestines aren't in a good state where it should be, there's inflammation in there. And then you guys have heard of gluten before, right? Gluten's a big one like that. So that irritates that much more and creates these gaps and these openings in there. So now the stuff that's in your intestines can get out into the rest of your body. And that's not meant to do that. Can you imagine, say this is a multiple floor building, and the piping, there's a leak in some of the pipes from the floor above us. Now it's leaking through down here into my office. Now I'm going to have a problem with that, right? You guys would have a problem with that. That's not okay. Whether it be just water or whether it be toilet water, whatever. We don't want any of that, right? Not cool, not okay, right? Well, if that's getting into, what do you think your body does when that stuff's getting out in there? That's toxic to the rest of the body. It's not, your body has these cells to protect it, to do through that. And we're going to talk about the lining of that here in a little bit. But to protect that, and if that's getting through, now your body says, that's not supposed to be there, and it starts attacking that. And this is how we get autoimmune disorders also. Does that make sense? So leaky gut is a big deal when it talks about that. So we want to be preventing that as much as possible. And we do that a lot through our diet, through the things that we put in our body, but also making sure everything is functioning neurologically. So, anyone heard of SIBO before? That's SIBO, S-I-B-O. Stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So the bacteria in your intestine, there's too much. It can be too much. Most people think of bad bacteria, but there also can be such thing as too much good bacteria. Okay, so we got to have the right balance, right? You can't have too many of something in there, right? guess what? If you have too much, fruits and vegetables are great, and you should have lots of them and everything, but you can have too much of it too, right? And that can make you sick that way if you only have a certain amount of things or have too much of one thing. Too much water is great, and we all need water, but too much water is called drowning, right? And we don't want that, right? So same thing. We need to have the right amount of bacteria. If we have too much, this starts creating a lot of other problems. And so we don't want that. But it's like 80% of people who have irritable bowel syndrome have SIBO, right? So that's a huge portion of those people, right? And so it's not a likely thing. There's too much bacteria in there, and it's stopping the body from functioning the way it's supposed to. So whether it be good bacteria or bad bacteria, so this is something we want to definitely be avoiding. But so many people already experiencing this. There's a large amount of people who are experiencing this, and this is a lot more common diagnosis that we're seeing nowadays too. So here's some symptoms of that. So what is that? What is SIBO? What does it look like? So abdominal pain, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, nausea, reflux. Again, if you don't have some of this, you know someone who's going through this, right? And so we all know someone who's experiencing this, especially if they're not having a healthy diet, they're not living a healthy lifestyle. These are things that start to happen. And so again, the gut is not working like it should. There's having problems, and things are getting off. So 70% of your immune system is from your gut. 70%. That's a lot, right? So when we talk about, especially, the last couple of years, COVID, everything else, right? One of the things that we were preaching here constantly the whole time, that your immune system, right? So we got to give that the right things. Just staying away from stuff, that's not going to necessarily solve the problem, right? We got to make sure we're putting the right things in. We got to make sure we have a healthy gut if we want to be healthy, if we want to have an immune system to be able to fight stuff off. If I'm eating a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of sugars, am I going to have a healthy gut? No. Again, I'm not. Because we know sugar creates inflammation in the body, and that's not going to create a healthy diet or a healthy immune system. We know sugar lowers your immune system, and this is where this is one of the things we want to avoid with that. Just like if you're diagnosed with cancer, what's the test they look to do that? It's called a PET scan. They give you radioactive sugar, they inject that in your body, and they look to see where it goes because that's what cancer feeds off of. So if you're diagnosed with cancer, what's one of the first things we want to do with most cancers is avoid all sugars, right? So we want to feed that, right? So again, our immune system is so huge right here in our gut, but that's the last place most people look. When I was a kid, you know what if you were sick and you had to stay home from school, what did your parents give you? 7-Up and saltine crackers. Sugar and processed stuff, right? I mean, that was not helping my immune system at all. It was the rest that did. It wasn't the 7-Up that fixed the problem. I can tell you that, right? But that's the stuff they did because they didn't know better. We know better now, and I hope all you guys in here know this because I've told you this a bunch. We know that that's the case, that not to do those things. That's not creating health in the body. That's not helping the immune system. It's actually slowing the process down. So we don't want to hinder the body. We want to help it. And so we look at. So this is why your immune system is so important. We look at that. So that one of the things we talked about. What are good things that we can put in our body to help our immune system in our gut? Anyone know something? Prebiotics, probiotics, right? Good. Vitamins. Your vitamin D especially. That's a really big one. In there. That's why I like one of our supplements, vitamin D, with a billion probiotics. With that, we see a much bigger uptake, so it can absorb that better, and we get a lot better outcomes with that. Right? Those are some good things. We're talking about some other really good probiotic-filled foods. You're gonna say something? How about fiber? Fiber is good, but most of your fiber is a carbohydrate laden with that. So fiber is literally something just to help. It's just mass to help push things through. That's why they say fiber. It's literally just mass pushing things through. It's not that it's something for that our body nutrient-wise necessarily. Does that make sense? Now, with that, fiber is good for you. We need to have something. We don't know just liquid all the time, right? That's not going to get what our body needs.
It's the difference between a candy bar and an apple. I mean, a candy bar will give you a lot of carbs, and so will an apple. But an apple also has fiber in it, it helps you. It's a lot healthier.
It's a better choice on it. Now, it's not healthier because of the fiber per se. Fiber is, again, it's the mass that's going to help push that through with all that.
Or like raw food.
Again, yeah, raw food's good. And why is that good? Because it's actually the enzymes that your body needs to use to help break that down. That's where that really comes into play, even more so. And that's why raw foods are so good, because there's actually enzymes in that raw food that your body can actually use, and nutrients that aren't broken down. But when we cook things, what happens? We break down those things and we lose a lot of the nutrients that our body needs. That's why raw foods are really good. Everybody thinks of, like I say, raw foods. They think of, okay, raw carrots and celery. That's the things that we think of the most, right? But those are foods that can help do that. So, yeah, well, that's what I want to get to in just a second here. So, so we have the gut-brain axis. So, but 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So your serotonin is your feel good. It's what your mood, right? So this is why you guys seen those Snickers commercials, right? The guy that's all angry and you need a Snickers, like, oh, now I'm back to myself, right? Well, yeah, we get hangry, right? Well, because if we don't have the right stuff in there, our body's not going to produce serotonin, and we are going to be angry. We're going to be hangry, right? We've all been there before, right? And so like you need to eat something. You're pretty ornery right now, right? This is why kids throw a fit and are ornery when they don't eat at the right times, right? Little kids, adults get the same way sometimes, right? We all know that person, right? But this is a big part of, and your serotonin also helps with digestion. It's a big part of that that helps connect the brain and the gut in there. So we're going to get to, here's gastric distress. There's 5 different pillars of this. Also kind of going back to what like Maya was mentioning here, what are some of those other good foods that we can do? We're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, we're going to maldigestion, inflammation, dysbiosis, metabolic imbalance, and infection. So we're going to talk about all 5 of these things here real quick. I'm going to break down each one of these. So first one, maldigestion. So what does that basically mean? That means your body is not digesting the food like it should. Not digestion, not digesting. Make sense? So why is that? One of the big things is pancreatic insufficiency. So in other words, your pancreas produces enzymes to help break down your food. People think of pancreas, they think of insulin and diabetes. Well, your pancreas does a lot more than that. It helps break down food. So if it's not producing, your pancreas isn't producing the enzymes needed to help break down certain parts of food, it's not going to work. Does that make sense? Another one, a sluggish gallbladder. Your gallbladder is important. Your gallbladder produces bile. You guys have heard of that before? Now, it's like this green, kind of slimy type stuff. But this is what helps break down fats, right? There's fats in everything that we eat, and we need fat, believe it or not. A lot of people think we shouldn't have fat from back when I grew up, late 70s, 80s is when this low-fat craze came out. We thought that was better for us. No, we need fat. We just need to not have bad fats. We need good fats, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But we need a gallbladder produces this bile to help break down those fats. So we have people that have, I asked the question, people say, oh yeah, I had gallbladder surgery, so I don't have a gallbladder. I said, well, how's it working now? Like, well, good. Well, but I don't have one. But it has a job, right? If we can't just take organs out, and if I go out to your car and I pull one of your tires off, it might kind of drive, but there's going to be a problem, right? And eventually there's going to be a big problem, right? Just like if I go out and pull a hose or anything out of your car, it's not going to work the same. It can't work the same, and eventually a big problem occurs. Does that make sense? Because it has a job, it has stuff. So we look at some healthy fats. This is one of the things we need to do to help with that. So we want to make sure we're getting our healthy fats in. So why do we need healthy fats? Well, this is what our cell membranes are made out of. This is our building blocks, is fat. Your brain is actually made out of fat. So it's actually a compliment if someone tells you you're a fathead. Right? So that's why everybody wants those big hats, fat head, things like that, right? It cushions your vital organs. It's not just cushion on the outside, right? It helps protect you from extreme temperatures. Like, people think of that, oh, I'm fat, so I can handle the extreme temperatures, but that's not exactly it. But it does give you some insulation, right? But it helps your hormones, a big part of that. 70% of your brain tissue, like I said, lowers your inflammation. And that's the one thing we want to stay away from is inflammation. So healthy fats are very important. Can't say that enough. But we need your gallbladder, like I was talking about, right? So if they take that out, now what's doing that job? Nothing, right? So, but you'd be surprised how many patients come in here and the doctor has never told them, well, you shouldn't be eating these foods now because you don't have the organ that produces this to break this down. They're like, oh, is that why I get sick every time I eat this? I'm like, yeah, but their doctors never told them this. And that now they just can't eat these foods without, because they have nothing to break that down when they do that. So you need your gallbladder.
The doctor does tell them they don't know what to say to it, or they don't pay attention, and a lot of doctors do, but a lot of people don't get it.
100%, definitely. So the second pillar, we're talking about inflammation. Inflammation is part of every disease process. We think about inflammation. That's like you think about a swollen ankle. It's going to a sprained ankle. It's going to swell, get hot. That's inflammation. Heat is part of inflammation. Inflame, right? So our body produces heat when it does that. When we have a fever, that's inflammation, right? But inflammation can be good and to some extent, but inflammation in our gut is bad. That means there's irritation. There's a problem, right? This is a warning sign. So when we have inflammation, that we have the calprotectin. So that's a protein that's released by your white blood cells because there is inflammation. So if we're seeing high levels of that, that's a bad thing. EPX, that's a histamine reaction to the gut. So that means a histamine, we talked about like allergies, a histamine, antihistamine. So your body's, there's an inflammatory, there's an immune response going on there. So these are things we don't want to be high. Your fecal secretory IgA. This is the mucal the lining of your gut from basically from your esophagus on down. This is what protects that. It's that lining of that. But if that's destroyed or eaten away in some way or shape or form, the body can't do it, and there's irritation to that. Inflammation is some irritation, right? If your throat is inflamed and you have a sore throat and it's itchy and scratchy and hot and red and raw, right? We think of that if you've been talking too much or coughing too much or something like that. That really adds up to that. Metabolic imbalances. So I know a lot of these things don't mean a lot to you, but if we did if we're doing some metabolic testing, some metabolics testing on you, this is what what things we look for in imbalance in these things. Because if we don't have the right balance, things don't work good, right? Exercise is great, but if all you did is exercise and you don't change your diet and you eat nothing but McDonald's, we're not going to and cake and ice cream all the time. We're not going to move the needle very well, right? But if all you do is change your nutrition, but you don't move and you sit on the couch all day long, that's not going, again, it's not going to help you with your weight loss journey either, right? So we need to have a balance. We have to have the right amounts of everything in there. So I'm not going to get into every one of these right now because it's, again, we're getting the chemistry part right now. But we need to make sure we have the right balance on each one of these. But a big part of it, glyphosate. You guys, you know what glyphosate is? I'm sure you've heard of it before. Roundup. It's the key ingredient in Roundup. Now that's in everything any processed food that we have practically. We live in Iowa. We're surrounded by fields. It's blown onto anything and everything. It's in us. It's on us, etc. Especially living here in Iowa. But what it does is it changes the pH level of our gut, and that's a very vital thing. We need that pH level has to be the right amount. And so what it does is it makes it more basic, so that it changes it pulls it away from the right amount here. So you guys, you can go to even the gas station and they have pH water, right? With the right pH, because our body has the right pH. But here, you guys heard of homeostasis before? Your body's always going to try and balance things out the best it can. So it's going to do whatever it takes from here to try and balance this out and have the right pH, so you're not in a toxic level. So something's acidic, so it's lower on the pH scale, so like a 2 or 1 or a 3, that's bad, right? But if it's too basic and too alkaline, that's a bad thing also. We want to be in the right, it depends on what part of your body we're looking at. We want the right pH level. Now your gut, if we have glyphosate, really throws this off. And this is what starts creating a lot of other issues with that. Dysbiosis. So this is where things are not in the right amount, right? You guys ever heard dysbiosis before? Someone's been died. You probably have heard that term before, not really understanding. So our gut microbiome, so that means there's not the right thing. So a commensal abundance. So we look at the right amounts of each thing. So not just the right balance of the right number of bacteria, viruses, bacteria, fungi, whatever we have. We need to have the right balance of those things, but we also have to have the right amounts. It's two different things. Does that make sense when I say that? So we got to make sure we have the right part. We don't have to have too much of everything is bad. Too little of everything is bad. So there's different things we're looking at there. So you need bacteria. Bacteria are good. Like I said, we already talked about that quite a bit here. That it's an essential part of that. But what happens? What's the typical thing that happens to if you're sick or something? What do I give you? Give an antibiotic, right? So first of all, we got to talk about before we get to that. What are some good probiotics? You mentioned probiotics were the good things to promote good bacteria in there. Kefir. Anybody know what the kefir is? It's like at our house we call it drink yogurt. It's a little liquidy, more of a liquidy version of yogurt, but it has a lot of good bacteria in there. Sauerkraut actually is really, really good for you for that. Whole milk, grass-fed, plain yogurt. So what we get here in the delivered from Bear Creek Acres, that's a raw organic whole milk that we use. The cheese from them, tempeh, kimchi, like sauerkraut, that type of stuff. They're fermented foods that are really good, loaded with bacteria. It's good bacteria in there. Infection. So I had one I wanted to get to. They're not showing up here. Oh, okay. Infection. So we're talking about what an infection looks like. We've all heard of infection. We've all gotten infection. You had a cut, and if you didn't cover it, wash it out clean, it can get infected, right? And then it gets red, more irritated, has bigger problems. Same thing if we have an infection, about a yeast or a parasite in our gut. You've heard of those before. That can create a lot of other issues in there. So from all malabsorption to irritation to inflammation, and all down the thing. So an infection is bad too, right? Just like you get a cut on your skin and your finger, you get a cut, something like that in there, or you can get an infection in some other way of having the wrong things in there. So if we want to stop the process, first we want to identify the cause, right? That's the key. We need to know what's causing it. We can't just throw a blanket of everything at it, right? That does not work. That's not a good idea. We're not going to throw an antibiotic at everything, which unfortunately happens way too often, because most patients, when they walk into the doctor's office, they expect to be handed something on the way out. Even if it's a virus that they have that's causing them to feel the way they are, they expect to be given an antibiotic to get there. And unfortunately, some doctors will, just to appease them, will do that or not do their due diligence. That's not the case, hopefully, but again, it does happen. We want to remove the interference, right? We got to stop the interference from getting through. We got to allow the body to talk to itself like it's supposed to, right? You guys have all played the telephone game before. Like I tell you a secret, and you pass it on them, and them, and it comes back to me, and it's a totally different thing, right? We got to make sure that that's clear all the way through, clear communication. And then we want to restore that balance. We want to get that right amount in there. If we all get on a teeter-totter here, we try and get it right so that we're all balanced out between us in the room here with our weight. Well, if we put all the guys on one side and all the girls on the other side, it's probably not going to be balanced. Most of the guys in here were bigger than most of the girls, right? It's not going to work real well. So we got to make sure that we balance that out the right way. We can't just split it down the middle, guys, girls, even though we have about the right amount here to be balanced numbers-wise. Weight-wise, that's going to be different, right? So we got to have that right balance in there. So we want to identify the top causes of leaky gut. We talked about leaky gut. Here are some of the top causes of it. Sugar, right? I can't say it enough. Sugar, it's in everything that we eat practically. Damaged fats. Anyone know what a damaged fat is? Wait, example? I know some of you guys know. What's a damaged fat? Ever heard trans fats before? Right? Or if you're cooking with some of these fats, like vegetable oil, it's got fats in it, but if you cook with vegetable oil, it becomes rancid and becomes a damaged fat. Does that make sense? Refined carbohydrates. Again, this is when the more man's touch it, the further it is from health. Does that make sense? We can take wheat itself is not horrible, but the more now we get down to Wonder Bread, white Wonder Bread, there's no nutritional value to it, and we've destroyed everything that's good in it. And so again, refining those carbohydrates even more. Glyphosate, we already talked about that. Artificial sweeteners, these are direct carcinogens, and as we see a lot of times put into everything. Oh, we know sugar is bad for us, so they're going to put artificial sweeteners on, which make it even worse, right? Oh, it's low calorie, low sugar, no sugar. If you see those things on the label of something, breaks, read the ingredients, because that's telling us there's a problem already. We're already going down the wrong way most times. So we got to remove the interference. So there's 4 R's to healing the gut. So that's what we're getting into now. Phase 1, we want to remove. We got to get rid of the bad stuff, right? So we can do a cleanse. We can do a detox. We can do a lot of those type of things. But we want to remove that bad bacteria, the yeast, the parasites, things like that. So depending on what you have going on, if you have parasites, obviously we need to get rid of those parasites. And there's very specific protocols to do that if that is the case. Now, most of you, that's not the case, but that does happen, and that is a thing. Yeast overgrowth, that can be something. I've had that myself, and it's not like I'm eating a bunch of bread and beer and things like that we think yeast, right? But we can have a yeast overgrowth in our gut, and that can affect how the body works. But here's typically what they do if you have bacterial overgrowth. What are we going to do? We're going to just bomb it. We're going to give you antibiotics. Let's set off a bomb. We're going to kill all the bacteria. Wait, that's not good. We need bacteria, right? That's the approach that's used, right? And so if you've ever had an antibiotic before in your life, that means your gut is off balance. It doesn't have enough bacteria, or you have too many of bad bacteria, or you can have too many good bacteria because it doesn't have that right balance. So we got to get that back to that right balance in there. So that takes some work. Probiotics, prebiotics, having that right regulatory things on there on a daily basis to help get us there. Does that make sense? Phase 2, we need to repair, right? We got to fix it. We got to get the right stuff. We got to allow the healing to happen. So we got to restore so we got to protect it. So first of all, we got to make sure we're, again, putting the right things in to help repair that and giving it the right building blocks. But we also got to make sure the body can get there. So first, stop causing damage, right? Hit the brakes. Then we got to give it the right thing. Let it start getting those building blocks, building it back up. And then we got to replace. So we got to make sure we're the right protein, the carbs, the fats. I want to make sure we're putting the right ratios of those things in with that. Can we live without carbs? Yeah, you can. You very much can. But I know you're not told that, generally speaking. They remember your food pyramid? It was all carbohydrates in the big part, right? Actually, we need to flip that upside down. You need very, very little carbs. And your fruits and vegetables, that should be, the higher part, but, and your fats, that should be up here, not down here. So that we want to make sure the right parts are. We want to replenish. Then we want to get the right balance, right? So we got to refill the tank, right? We got to be filling the tank with good stuff. So we can do our supplementation to help get the right balance of the things, but then we got to keep the right stuff coming in on a regular basis. Got to put the right kind of fuel in, right? So here's some of those things, supplements that I recommend along with it, depending on what you have going on. You guys have sheets with a lot of the information to go break down that in a lot more detail and a whole description of these things. I can help talk with you a lot more, but to shorten it up, I'm not going to go through each one of these in detail. Some ones that I really do like, though, just a real brief. I take the GI Balance on a regular basis. That's something that's helped me a lot, and I recommend that for a lot of my patients. A probiotic, again, if you're not having enough, especially if someone's been sick for a while, something like that, really boosting up, getting that 50 billion, getting a lot more probiotics, getting that loaded back up again. Or if you've had antibiotics, something like that, you want to really get that back up to par. Gut Renew, that's another good one. Maybe your pancreas or your gallbladder is missing or something like that, or you're having some troubles. Those digestive enzymes really help with that type of stuff. So kind of help you figure that out a little bit more with that too. And we can help you a little bit more too. But we know your nervous system is what controls everything, like I said, right from the very beginning. And if the brain and the gut aren't talking to each other, it doesn't matter, right? If like, as busy as my life is with my kids are in so many different activities, if my wife and I don't talk to each other on a regular basis, who's picking up who when? Well, I know this one has practice at this time, this one has this at that time. Even today, my son had basketball camp. My daughter was helping with Vacation Bible School. They both got done at noon. Well, one of us has got to go one way, one of us got to go the other way to pick them up, or someone's going to be left behind. And that's not good. I can't leave my kids just waiting for something, right? So we got to be able to communicate. We got to talk to each other. We got to, thank gosh, we can text, we can call, we can organize, we can meet with each other, real brief meetings to make sure we have this happen. But if that's not getting done, there's going to be a big problem, right? So the body has to talk to itself, and the nervous system is the key to this. But if you have a subluxation, right? You guys have heard me use the term subluxation before. When your spine is shifted out of place, pressure on the nerve, stopping that communication from getting through there, it's not going to work. So we got to make sure that that's not the case. So that's why structure, our spine, determines our function, how everything works, which determines how we feel. So if you're not feeling good, we got to look at, okay, is everything functioning like it should? Okay, probably not. Then we look at the structure, make sure that everything's set like it's supposed to so that our body can function. Does that make sense? So the first step, if you haven't before, which everyone here has, make sure you're getting your checked. So if you have a friend, a family member, someone who is suffering from any of the things that we were talking about today, which we all do, we all know someone who has some type of gut issue, make sure they get checked first of all, because we can start putting all the best stuff in our body, but if it still can't communicate, it doesn't matter, right? And so that's one of the big things we talked about right there. Other thing we want to talk about is look at action steps. So first of all, we want you to, moving forward, what do you need to do? You make sure you sign up for upcoming events. We have a list of some upcoming events here. You have a little sheet that looks like this. A little quarter sheet here. And it says it has a couple of our next coming events. Our inflammation workshop. We talked about inflammation. We're going to go that way more detail, obviously. So all you got to do is check it off, put your name on there, turn it in to the girls on the way out. We'll make sure you're registered for that. So we have our upcoming events. We also have your supplement order form. Everybody, there's a discount for everybody tonight. Since you guys are actually taking an active role in your health, we want to make sure that we reward you for those things. So all of our supplements have a discount tonight. And there's also, you can get they have that list of those other ones specifically for the gut on those other sheets there too. And then last step is make a meal plan. Because if you don't plan out your food that you're going to eat, it becomes a problem. Susan and I were talking about this weekend. I was traveling, my whole family. We're trying to make better choices on that. But if we didn't plan ahead, my wife made some paleo cookies and this chicken slaw salad that we took with us to Omaha, and we could have some stuff for that. So my wife made these cookies because she knows I want ice cream. It's going to be 90 degrees. It's going to be hot. I'm going to want a treat. I'm going to want something like that. So she made these so she didn't have to. So she wouldn't be tempted to eat ice cream, right? So we planned ahead. So you got to plan that meal out, and so you have the right stuff. Because how much we all want to eat? We all want to eat better. We want to. I got home tonight, and if I don't have anything in the refrigerator, it's really go up and order a pizza, right? Or go out and grab something. Or now you just DoorDash and it gets delivered to you. You don't even have to put any work in at all. You don't even have to leave the couch, right? So make a meal plan. Plan out what you're going to do, and then go shopping for those specific things. Don't go shopping when you're hungry, because then you end up going through the Dorito and Oreo aisle, right? We don't want that. Stay away from that stuff. Horseshoe, the outside. So make a meal plan. Make a plan of attack, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail, right? Same thing with everything in life. So those are your action steps. Here's our upcoming events like we talked about. We have our back to school drive coming up here. You can either donate money, or you can actually donate some items. We have a list of those things. And the donation will cover the cost of someone to come in and get it checked out. So if you have a family member, a friend, like we were talking about, any of these things, whether they're struggling in some way, shape, or form, perfect chance, win-win on this. They get a chance to get checked out for a very small fee, and it also helps back to school for the drive for that, and that's for families helping families. August 7th, we're having our inflammation workshop coming up here, and then on the 15th, we're having our community dinner. So I'm taking everybody out to dinner. When was the last time your doctor took you out to dinner besides me? That's a pretty short list, right? So you get to come out to dinner. We're going to have a great time. You get to hear me talk about a couple things real quick, but just enjoy each other, have a great time, and go out, have a meal together. Because we all like to, everybody likes to eat, right? I'm going to go home and eat here in a little bit. Hopefully you guys are too, if you haven't already. Have a good dinner, do those things. So those are upcoming events. If you haven't yet, make sure you check out our stuff here. Just pull out your smartphone. You can, our QR codes for both our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube. We're posting videos. We're shooting videos every week, adding to these different things. So there's always a lot of information. So you're always having stuff at your fingertips. Want to make sure you're getting the right information at the right time. Like last week, I think we did our summer hours, how we changed that, things from that. So I want to make sure that you know what's going on in the office, to our workshops, to whatever is going on. And there's also our website and our email too. So if you want to ask me a question, best way to do that, email me, Ask Dr. Dietz. I can't make it much easier for you guys. Ask Dr. Dietz. If you want to ask me a question, that's the best way to do it. I'll definitely get back to you within 24 hours. I can either email you no matter where I'm at, or when we can come in for your appointment, we can talk about that or whatever, answer your question to the best of my abilities. I am not an end-all be-all, know everything, but I can definitely research also. So for that, that is it for the workshop